Okay, so a few more things about putting together more complex queries. One thing I was going to demonstrate was a keyword that is sort of a good replacement for an OR statement. We've actually seen it before. So what we want to do now is let's say we're interested in pulling out a bunch of different species. So we want species ID equals DM, or species ID equals DO, another Dipodomys, or species ID equals yes. So remembering our logical combinations of operators here from working in R, this is going to return rows where species ID is any of these three, and it won't return rows where it's not any of these three. So let's run that statement. And so there you can see we've got DS, DM. Let's find a DO. Any DOs? Don't see any DOs. Yep, no DOs. Maybe might be quite rare. One thing to keep in mind, these parentheses are not actually necessary in this case, but they can help. Basically, they help you keep track of what's going on. So let's also just pull out the females while we're at it. And sex equals F. Oops. Didn't like that. Oh, I don't have enough parentheses. There we go. I didn't have my outer parentheses there. All right, good. So now we're down to, oops. That didn't do what I wanted it to do. Why is that? So I have species. Certainly limited the species, but it hasn't limited the sex. Oh, I see, because I've got this in the wrong place. That's the problem. I want any of those and sex equals F. With my parentheses out on the other side, I bet I was only getting female DS. Let's see. There's a DS, female, DS, female, DS, female. Yeah. So what it was doing was it was connecting the species ID equals DS and sex equals F. But DM, I got both males and females. So order of operations matters, and where you put your parentheses is important. There we go. Now we've just got sex. And DM, DS, DO. Phew. Okay, good. But this was a little bit, so that was kind of awkward, right? But there's another way we can do this. It's a little bit easier. And this is an operator, a keyword in. So we wanted to say species ID in. And now we're going to give it a sort of like a vector of possibilities. So now we're going to say DM, comma, DS, comma, DO. So we've seen an in operator before. In R, we use a similar kind of structure, species ID, where basically it's going to give us this value where these things are true. It's part of for loops, and there's also a %in% operator, which does exactly this kind of matching. That's going to give us exactly the same thing as we had before. So we have species ID in these things as well as sex equals female. Okay. One other thing that I should show you that I didn't do a good job of describing earlier. If we wanted to do a calculated field, so we wanted to convert weight into kilograms. So let's select year, and we're going to do round weight, and and there's actually a second argument to that. Oops, weight sorry, divided by 1,000. There we go. Comma 2. So before, if you don't provide this second argument, it rounds to 0 decimal places. But you know, that gives us 0 kilograms for pretty much everything. But if we put a 2 here, it's going to give us 2 decimal places. So what do I want? I want to know which species this is, right? So we have species ID. So this is only going to give us the females in those species, but it's also going to tell us what their weights are. Just out of curiosity, let's put comma, weight. Oh, yeah, they're less than 100 grams, so they still come out as 0. But now, we can do 3. No, still not getting any values in there. Let's do 4. Wonder why that is. Let's look here. Structure. Okay. I need to do some rooting around here to figure out why that's not the case, why that's happening. Oh, I think I see what the error is. So the problem is it's dividing by, in here, it's dividing by 1,000. If I don't put the decimal point there, it's going to treat that as an integer value. I think that's what's happening. Let's try it out. Ah, there we go. So now we're measured in kilograms, and I can go back to 2 decimal places, and I'm going to actually get results. Okay, so that decimal 0 there is important because it determines that weight was an integer. So if I just put 1,000 with no decimal point, it's going to be an integer divided by an integer will give us an integer. And in that case, it's always going to end up rounding off to 0 because the values are smaller than 1 is the smallest value I can represent as an integer. So that 0.0 is actually very important. All right, let's get rid of this thing. Okay, now what if we wanted to change the order in which these results were appearing? So what we wanted to do is we want to see which species or which individuals are the biggest. So what we can do is we can add a clause order by, which is going to give us what we want here. So we want order by let's do species ID. And by default, it's going to do this in ascending order. We can specify that by changing this, by giving it this other keyword, ASC, at the end here. Run SQL. So now we got all of the DMs, and somewhere down here we'll get the DOs, maybe a long ways down. There they are. There's the DOs, and then the DSs. And if we wanted it in the other order, we could change this to DSC for descending. That's going to flip things around. DS comes first now. So that's sorting, and a little bit more on filtering. One of the things that, the last thing I wanted to describe here has to do with the order of execution. So in an SQL query, things are always going to come in the same order here. We've got too much going on. We're always going to start with select, from, where, order by will come at the end. Okay, so the statements are always going to be in the same order. However, they're not actually executed in that order. And you can sort of demonstrate this by putting in a few different things. So let's do select genus and species from the species table where taxa equals bird. Okay, now taxa is one of the variables in the species table, but notice that I'm not including it in the select part of the clause. And while we're in there, let's just do order by species ID, okay, which is also not in this select statement. I can run this, and so now what I'm getting is genus and species, and they're ordered according to the species ID codes. Okay, so Ammodramus comes before Zonotrichia. Now, what is going on here? The trick is that it actually does this select function at the end. So first it's going to identify the table, then it's going to do the filtering and ordering of the results, and only then does it subset the result according to the variables that we've asked for. So that gives us a very different kind of, or it means that we don't have to include the variables that we're using for filtering or ordering in the select statement.